Rod Duff, your host.
And I'm Producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, Producer Barbie and I are out. Hey guys, how you doing, man? I am so excited. We're going live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on X, and then on Instagram. I'm starting to get some of this stuff down. Hold on, I got to turn my phone off so that we don't hear ringing and all that. Appreciate you being here. And by the way, I was just talking to my eldest son, Brandon. I'm going to go down and down to Texas, just over the border, and get to see my grandbaby and my beautiful children. Let's see my ex-wife too. That's part of this story today in Barbie-isms. The show has gotten over 8,900 subscribers now. 8,901 to be precise as of this morning, which is very, very, very exciting. Let me close this down, save, and boom. So so subscribe, please, and like the shows, of course, that you enjoy the most. It's a beautiful day. We're moving. It's a really cold and windy day outside, but I'm very excited that we're really moving along. Looks like we have 2 people in already this morning. We're consistently staying in the 300-400 audience members. Please have your questions ready, and let's talk about some things. First, I'm going to go into, so subscribe and like I said before, please. Let's hit this 10,000 subscribers this month. Still got the rest of the week to go. Saturday is the 1st, which is the day of the birthday party. So that's very cool. Gonna have to manage my Insights and Straight Talk with Emma Lynn and Grandpa Rod a little bit. That's probably going to be moved to a little bit different time, because the show is actually at the same time as roughly the same time as the party is. So I'll probably move it back a little bit to the afternoon, and we'll take it from there. I'm not going to take all my camera gear and everything, so I'll probably just be working off of the old school way and doing the laptop and cam and that kind of thing. I'll bring my other laptop. I just don't want to carry all these computer screens and cameras and mic and lighting. That's potentially dangerous to the equipment. I mean, it's just a few hours south, but gonna have the dogs with me, and there's going to be a little bit of back and forth. So the quality is going to be a little different. It's really kind of dark in here today, isn't it? I'm always uncontented with the lighting that's not my gig. So I just try and figure it out as best as I can. Really wish these glasses didn't reflect so much. But anyway, so while you guys are all getting ready and kind of warming up your coffee or tea and snuggling in for a little time just with us together, I very much look forward to this time with you. This hopefully won't be too emotional of a show for me, because I'm going to dig in deep about where Barbie-isms came from. You all know that Producer Barbie has been in my life for a long time. Like I said, subscribe to Insights on YouTube at Rod Duff 1939. So through this show is really based through the heart of Producer Barbie. And I say that because she and I were together for almost 2 decades, just shy of 2 decades. Um, and there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of joy, there was a lot of craziness. Let me give you a little insight on producer Barbie. Uh, Fantastic woman, very intelligent, very strong-willed, and very into astrology, holistic medicine, holistic health. Very athletic. She is works out daily like a champ. Sauna has always been a part of her life. I've always provided one to her during our time together. We were So it started a year. Her and I started about a year after my divorce and separation. Um, my first wife, the mother of my boys, is when that just kind of came to its finality. Happened to be on Facebook one day, and not Facebook, actually, it was MySpace, I think was the name of it, which is basically a Facebook that didn't make it through. So there's that, and we connected. And I remember I was in a meeting, my phone popped up, and she had sent me a note for us to get together. Long story short, we ended up, I think it was that evening, meeting in Huntington Beach, where I lived at the time, and on the pier. If you guys know Huntington Beach Pier, there's a restaurant right as you walk onto the pier, and then there's a restaurant at the end of the pier. But the one that you walk on, the restaurant that was right as you were entering the pier, and then it looked out over the ocean, obviously, on the back end of the dining area. So I just remember she and I met there, and I got there before she did, and I was kind of I was sitting in the bar. There's the bar, the bar stools and the counter, and I was kind of just a little anxious. And so at one point there's all these bottles, where the liquor was up above. So if you were sitting at the bar and you stood up, I just kind of was stretching my back. I was not hanging, but kind of hanging on the rack up above. And that happened to be the moment she walked in, and I just felt her coming from my right. So as you walk in, you have a valet or a person meeting you, and they seat you at your table, or before that you turn right and walk into the bar. And I was on this side of the bar, so the door was to my right, and then there was an exit door with a patio to my left at the other end of that bar there. And she came in, and we started talking. And she was extremely nervous. Very, how when you're nervous, you kind of have a like a flushing, kind of a I don't want to use the word sweat, a glistening, a glow. And so I am not a shy person, let's say. And so we ended up having a really good time. I took her out to the patio, and she it was a cool evening, not like it is out, up in Chicago. Those are different than in Southern California, obviously, but it was a cool evening. It was a nice little breeze coming off the ocean, and we were sitting out in the patio, and she kind of got her her rhythm, got her comfort level, and we connected, and so it became very easy after that. A little bit later in the evening, we went. If you guys know Huntington Beach, there's the place that I'm talking about, the pier, and then that's on PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, and then across from. So if you walked across Pacific Coast Highway, which is, I think they're just a two, maybe it's 4 lanes, but just a real easy thing, and there's a light there. And so we walked across. There's several restaurants and different things in the downtown Huntington Beach area. And I remember we went to another bar because there was dancing there. And she and I danced for hours. And I'd love to dance. I don't anymore. My knees and all that are, they're my age. So that's not necessarily something I'm going to be doing much of. Certainly the way we were dancing, we were spinning, and we were having a lot of fun. She's a very talented in all areas lady. And so as the night was winding down, she got a call, an emergency call, and it was her ex had some sort of a medical emergency. And so she and I kind of hugged, and she went off into the night. We obviously exchanged numbers and all that beforehand. And probably, I don't know, a week or a couple of days later, we got back together, and then it was basically, it was on from there. And at one point, I've only been married once. Her and I never actually got married, and that's a crazy story in itself. In that one day we're like, okay, let's do this. Let's get married. I got a ring for her and all that, and so we were going to go to Vegas, and we weren't. I lived in Yorba Linda at the time. She lived in Ladera Ranch, and so she used to come over, and we'd stay at different places. We traveled and all that, different wine country stuff, and different Europe and this and that. So one day we said, okay, let's do this. So we got in the car and we headed out. Neither of us had kids at home, so it's kind of easy to do that. And well, that's not true. Her youngest was with her mom, his grandmother. You've heard his name. I ended up raising him from age 4 up to he went away to college. And so as we were on our way out, there was this like thumping sound, and we weren't, like, we're in Ontario, I think, Pomona, Ontario area, headed up to head north into Vegas. And the car was just acting weird. I had a Mitsubishi, it was a 4-wheel drive. Love that car, man. I drove that car for 300,000 miles. But something happened, and it was this, I thought it was something really, really major bad. It felt like it was. Long story short, I turned around. I'm like, I can't, something's wrong. I don't want it to be worse, or worse yet, break down on, halfway there. We've got right around 9 people on. Welcome. Please subscribe. We're on a mission to get to 10,000 subscribers by November. We just, last night or this morning, we just hit 8,901. So there was 8,837. So right around 60, 70 people subscribed over the last 24 or 48 hours. I don't know, sometimes the stats are a little delayed in showing up. But please subscribe and like the videos, and also in the community, after the video itself is done, would you please subscribe or make comments and ask questions and so forth in that part of the I got to figure out what that's actually called. I've just started asking people to do that. So at the end of the day, Producer Barbie and I never actually got married, but we were together for 20 years. She basically ran the back end of my company, and then I did the front end. Looks like we have 33 people on. Please subscribe and like the episodes, please. Your questions will be coming, but make comments on the actual video itself. Your things you'd like to see, or things that we should be doing different, or things that you'd like to add. I really, we're really starting to get into our stride here. So this show is dedicated to the history of Barbie, Producer Barbie, the history of our relationship together, some insights about that relationship, which I'll be going back and forth. But we're going to talk a lot about how Barbie-isms came about. So I've been threatening her for probably 17 of those years that I'm going to put a book together, because she would always put things in a way that were not commonly put, but the meaning came through. There's it's not Lou Piniella. There was a catcher from in the 50s that he was very famous for that. Oh, wow. Okay. It looks like we got about almost 70 people on. Please like and subscribe. And he would always say things in a way that was almost counter or juxtaposed, and yet the meaning would come through. And that's what I consider Barbie-isms, just short snippets of wisdom that are powerful. You know, there comes a moment in every woman's and every man's life when you realize you've been giving so much that there's nothing left to pour. That's where Barbie-isms was born. Not from perfection, but from a quiet courage, from the quiet courage to refill one's own cup. And there was a lot of questions on that yesterday. Okay, here, I'm going to hit this one right out of the gate. Is it Tanric? Sorry, it's dark in here, and I have not the greatest vision in the world anyway, but I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong there, my friend. What inspired you most to start Barbie-isms? Well, because like I just said, her approach, 93 people on, please subscribe and like the show. I won't be saying that every 10 seconds. But a lot of people are jumping on. So I want to say subscribe and like. I really am excited to hit that 10,000 subscriber. We're on a really good motion. If I have I don't have my YouTube open, but I'd like to show you the graduation of where we are. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to go to my channel. I hope this doesn't hurt the digital, the display. So if I go to your videos, so I'm on my channel, and then I'm going to analytics. I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to put camera 4 on. Should be that. Let me make it larger so you guys can all see this. I want you to see this. So this is over the last 28 days, September 30th through October 27th. You can see we're really making a nice little push here. If you go back, just to show you, I'm going to go back 365 days. This is this is November 2024. And then this is not showing prior to that, obviously. We started with 0. Or I think we used to do insights, and I think I had like 12 subscribers, and it just sat around. This channel just sat around for years and years and years, because I only used it to to give demonstrations of different processes and different subsections and interviewing leaders in our industry. But so right in here, this is where Barbie and I really started. I remember one show where we were talking. So this is exactly a year ago, 1971. And we started this in September of 2024. So September, October. Is that right? No. Yeah, September. So within a 2 months of taping, we had a really nice jump here. I mean, from 0 to almost 2000, or 1901. And then, as we go along, we're adding. This is all still in 2024. Now you hit into 2025 back in January, and we're at 3850. And then we really started getting some very interesting experts, guests to come on to our show. And this is where we started doing AI. You see this jump here, 4802, and we got up to 6524. Just over, if you look at this is literally over a month's time, February 1st. And then we hit this number on the 19th. This came from a couple of really key shows. I do with my son Brandon, AI, new money, new food. This is where we started that, and we had some real popular people on, and they were bringing their guests. So now we're in March. We're into the 7s. April, we're getting close. Kind of going up and down a little bit here, and then May we hit over 8,000. So now we're at May. So May, June, July, August, September, October, 6 months. And now we're just slowly adding on additional until here today. There you are, 8,901. Just wanted to show you that. So back to Barbie-isms. As I said, this comes from the ability to refill one's cup. And Barbie is always, producer Barbie is always, fought a little bit of depression, a little anxiety. And she and I talk about this even still today. And I bring that up because she has started really training in the art of trading in the art of trading. My oldest son was awarded a scholarship to the Sun Devils. Which one is that? That's Arizona, Arizona State, I think, either Arizona or Arizona State. And he's studying writing code. And he's going to get he's on the way to getting his bachelor's. He's studying like crazy now. And then at the same time, producer Barbie has been studying trading, and she's always looked for her passion. We investigated looking at a couple of different businesses and just kind of walked along those paths, and it's led her to here. And the reason I say that is she's found her mission in life, and all the other things she wanted to do were exciting and interesting, but this is kind of a passion. She's very into money, and I think everybody is. I don't mean that disrespectfully or in cheek and tongue at all, but all of that time we were together, and I assume there's no difference before or after as far as her approach to life, because it's unique, it's interesting, and it's captivating. And that's the things that have caused me to be infatuated with her style. And part of that style is what I coined the name Barbie-isms. Like I said, it was probably 15 years of collecting these things, and they would just come up, and I'd ask her to repeat it, and she couldn't even repeat it. It's just things that popped out of her head in advice. So let's hit a couple of these questions here. Let me see what we got here. Have you ever felt like giving too much left you empty too? Oh, yeah. My business, which she rightly, producer Barbie and I talked about, the difference in my business and this podcast, which is my business, but the machinery business, I constantly poured everything into that business, and I gave and I gave and I gave, and then I come home and gave and gave and gave, and it was well, we've got 191 people on. Please subscribe and like the show. So when you give too much, you get empty because you're pouring everything out, and if there's nothing satisfaction wise that refills that, you have to consciously and deliberately make the effort. The first Barbie-ism, we talked about refilling your cup with laughter, and we told that story about our very first show together, and how everything was going wrong, and the mic wouldn't work, the camera had a glitch, and the clock is, and we do everything live, so people are coming on, and so we're under the gun to do it. We were just both frazzled, and then we just stopped and broke into laughter. That's how that got started, and that was the moment I knew that had to become something more. So for early Producer Barbie shows, take a look and go back to the directions, because our newsletter just dropped. The second issue just went out. The first issue of Barbie-isms went out. Oh shoot, I gotta stop this. Let me go back. Let me do this. And so as we go through this, go back and look at the descriptions and sign up for our newsletter, Substack newsletter. It's free, and it really gets into the breakdown of each show, and it has a continuing. Every Monday we do my insights behind the mic, kind of stuff behind the mic here, and then we do a Barbie-ism on Mondays, and then on Fridays we do a recap of the show of the week before, from Saturday with Emma Lynn and Grandpa Rod through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we do a preview of the upcoming show on Emma Lynn, and that just shows the passion. People ask me, how do I keep motivated? And this show motivates me. You folks motivate me. Your questions motivate me. They push me. They teach me. They heal me. And so when you give so much and don't get anything back, you can. 70% of people, adults and children, have some sort of are dealing with, fighting some sort of mental illness. And there's a scale, obviously, from depression all the way, to suicide and addiction and alcoholism and drugs, and all of that all leads, and that's why we do the 4 lanes that we do, because we all, as the great American middle class, and by extension the world, we all need to have that support. We all need to have that comfort, that calm. So, and that what I'm talking about is what today is all about. There comes a moment in every woman's and every man's life when you realize you have been giving so much that there's nothing left to pour. That's where Barbie-isms was born, not from perfection, but from quiet courage to refill one's own cup. That's the key right there. And like I said, check out some past shows and click and take a look there. In this very first episode of our Barbie-isms Mini-Series, I'm opening the door to our own story, the laughter, the tears, the lessons, and the healing that led to the words, "You can't pour from an empty cup." We've all had those days. Together, we'll talk about how self-compassion isn't selfish. It's sacred, how forgiveness becomes freedom, and how loving yourself first allows you to love everyone else better. You can't say what you don't know. You can't feel what you don't have. You can't pour from an empty cup. You feel me? If you've ever felt unseen, unheard, or just plain exhausted, stick around. This show's for you. You should get your friends. You should be watching. What you'll experience in this show is a behind-the-scenes look at how Barbie-isms began real talk about burnout, about balance, and emotional renewal. How healing yourself helps your home and your world. Think about this. There's a lot on social media now where it's kind of coming full circle, where men were, toxic, all the stuff that men went through, which when I say that is what they went through over what they always go through. In other words, men are very simple animals, but underneath the layer is a very big complexity. Underneath the outside view, there's a complexity of not knowing, of being unsure, of being given this responsibility to provide. And it's our nature, and that's all good. But there's things that go with that, and men have never been able to talk things out. So that's why I say it's going to heal your home, because if you're bringing that home and you're not able to make that adjustment, then the house suffers. Here's a sneak peek at upcoming Barbie-isms and the 4 Lanes episodes. You got to join this movement, folks, because this isn't just a show. It's a sisterhood. It's a brotherhood. It's us together. It's a community. Take the lessons with you. Like I always say hi to somebody. Go out and make those connections. And don't get all up. One of her favorite things to say was, "Don't get all up in their Kool-Aid." That's a downtown Julie Brown. If you guys remember that back many years ago. So like I said, subscribe for our YouTube conversations that heal, unite, and empower. Each show is designed to hit a separate subject, or to build on another subject, or to look at a subject from a different angle, a different direction. And this is where clarity starts to come. It comes from repeating and listening and doing. Join our community on Substack. That's where weekly reflections, early access to new Barbie-isms, and the behind the mic stories. That's the one I was telling you about on Monday. Actually, that's on Friday. and remind yourself that you never need to be alone. That's kind of where, to answer your question, Rod. Thank you. Very good question. That's kind of where you have to start. You have to start self-care. You have to, and I always thought these things kind of sounded, 60-ish, hippie-ish, but especially as I get more and more into the show and meet more and more people and listen to your folks' questions, it's becoming a new awareness for me, and it's how I like to say it's color between the layers of your life, of your human experience. Let me turn this off so I have a little bit better. Turn that off there. Got a little bit better picture. 261 people on. What's the biggest lesson you learned through this journey? Oh, great question. Richens, Mr. Root. Great question. Minnie, actually. What I just said is part of the learning lesson to actually start changing. I was always stressed. I talk about being compartmentalized until one day, a year ago in May, actually, I had a breakdown. I had a break, and all that compartmentalizing just blew, and I was physically constantly sweating for days while I was at a show. It was in Florida, so it was also warm, somewhat warm, pretty warm, and that's because I never took the time to refill. And Barbie, producer Barbie, was the same way. I think we're both, through this show, through these episodes, I think we're both learning, as you should, to take life from a little different angle. I've started to really press a message out to people about this move that I made here to Mangum, Oklahoma, for two reasons. One, I'm half the distance away from my son in California and my granddaughter Emma, and I'm only literally over the border in Texas, away from my Maddie, my youngest granddaughter. And the other reason was to be in a small town in middle America. I couldn't feel the authenticity. I didn't feel that I could speak authentically without being where middle America lives, where the great middle class lives and thrives. Reason I say that is because the choice for me to make a dramatic change was for the authenticity of the show, and I've always lived in big towns. I've lived all over the world. I've lived in large cities, and I think the smallest town I ever lived in was like 40,000 people surrounded by 500,000 people. And in Chicagoland area, the cities go, or the towns go, one right into the other. You don't even know where unless you happen to see a welcome to so-and-so town. You really can't tell them apart. And so that's a different lifestyle. And part of my recovery and part of my journey, I got to change this camera angle. I think it's just too big. Tell me if you guys like this, by the way. It seems to be too much space up here. I don't know if getting in tighter would be better or not. So I moved to this town for that purpose. And during that, it's been about 3 months now, I think, somewhere right in there. And during that time, I've been living the life of somebody who lives in a town of 2,000 people, and the next town is 30 miles away. And there's farmland and open space and state and national parks between us. That the only downfall is there's not as many options when it comes to restaurants, bars, social and big box stores. There is a nice little grocery store here. There's a nice Ace Hardware. Shout out to the Mangum City Library. They sponsor us and have provided this space for us all to be able to communicate. Let me see if we got any more here. Hey, have any of you folks subscribed? Let's see, 8901. We're still at 8901. So we should have 262 new subscribers. By the way, most of the people coming onto this show, I think more than half are new. So we're drawing in new people, and that's been a recent trend that's really started to spark up. You see that slow space in the middle there. It's because the same people were kind of coming in, enjoying we had great episode watch times and so forth. But I think now there's a lot more new people that are coming on. I think that's why we're getting such a big run on new subscribers. At least that's what my AI tells me. So what's the biggest lesson I learned? To approach life differently, to live for my journey and not for ego. And that's a big difference there. And to be authentic, to start working and admitting what I have been and what has been me, which great success in business and it was killing me slowly. Ever heard that song? Killing me, love, with your love song, killing me softly with your words, killing me softly. That's kind of was my life, it's just killing me softly. And back to Mangum, I've started to really tell people, we all have a lifestyle and we all typically like it. I've always wanted to be in a different place, and because of circumstances, never did. So your partner is very important in this decision, but hopefully you're aligned in that. But you should try an alternative lifestyle, meaning the place that you live, where you call home. People should be getting into smaller rural towns more. We have the ability, like I couldn't do this unless I had a podcast, because I can do this from the podcast from anywhere as long as I have a signal and I have power, right? And the equipment, of course, but I can do it from anywhere and have done it from several places. 265 people. Thank you. Please subscribe. Join the movement. We've got a mission here, and people are joining in. So my biggest takeaway, my biggest lesson is to live life. Find your God, find your spirit, find your journey, and all those things come together to make all of it better. And be purpose driven. Brandon reminded me, if that's the right word, do this for the joy. Don't do it for money. Money will come, but if you're going after money won't. Certainly not in the same volume or preface or space or speed. By the way, I do have a hard stop today. I got a big meeting right after this, so I will be stopping right at the hour time. That'll be 11:30 Central Standard Time, because my meeting's at 11:45. So, what advice would you give to someone who feels completely drained? In there, man. You know what's real? I was talking to a lady the other day on the show. It was a week or two ago, and she said prayers are when you talk to God. And I'm not pushing spirituality here, but hear me out. Tobias, Ingo, hear me out on this. When you pray, you're talking to God. When you meditate, God's talking to you. When you go out in nature, God's talking to you. I heard a story this morning. It was a medical story. It was on one of the news channels, and they this doctor that was on this show had released a book. And our book is coming out. I believe it hasn't been released yet, but in it he has one of the top surgeons, adding to this book of his, and and he said something to me that was fascinating, about getting into nature, and we're going over, heart disease and how men are at higher risk, and you should walk at least. By the way, walking, Tobias, is a great one. You should walk at least 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes. Should be taking 5,000-6,000 steps a day, which I do. And during that discussion, he talked about, not everybody can do this, but climbing up to like Mount Everest or major peaks, deep in nature, up in the sky, in a sense, and you can feel something different. You can feel the direction and the guidance of a higher being. If you're completely drained, take care of yourself. Work out a little bit more. That's why Barbie has always worked out for her own mental health, because that sweating and that pushing the body is a healing for her. For me, I like working out. I do it for a different reason, but healing for me is writing. Find your space, find your place, find your thing, and pay attention to it and use it, and refill your cup. Because if you're completely drained, your home is damaged, is in damage. Your family, your partner, your family, meaning moms and sisters or brothers and dads, all of that is affected. We have an energy. I think that's, this is kind of along the holistic path, but you have an energy, and it goes out 6 feet, which, interestingly enough, we had to keep apart 6 feet, and so it's just a curiosity to me, or a coincidence, an interesting coincidence. But you have a field, a energy field. Your body is pushing out that energy. You know how you can feel somebody coming up from behind you, say, or just out of sight? That's what you're feeling. You're feeling their energy coming to you, and pay attention to that. In doing that, you need to recharge that. You need to be, the word grounded, and that comes from, take your shoes off and walk through the grass. These are all things Barbie got me into. I used to be what you would consider an average. Well, I'm very much just an average dude. I like to tout that, but living the life of what I was supposed to live, marching along those stairs, towards success. Fake it till you make it, and all of that needs to be the journey you want to be on. Barbie opened up a world to me. Producer Barbie opened up a world to me, besides a lot of other things. I'm taking abstract out of that, but she she taught me that that these things like astrology, these other things that are out there, the term tree hugger has gotten a bad rap. I used to, for environmentalists and so forth. But you should hug a tree. That energy exchange. You should take off your shoes and walk in the forest, or at the very least, walk in your front yard or backyard. Walk in the grass. You should get in deep to nature, and you should find the thing that releases non-medical stuff. Don't pop a pill, don't do this, don't do that. Your body is perfectly. Dr. What was his name? The doctor that we had on last week. He says that 90% of surgeries aren't necessary, and there's other ways that you can heal yourself. The body has an incredible ability to heal itself. Medicines, it's not 0 or 100. Traditional medicine is important, but it's not the only thing. And right now, that's more of what we use than our own selves to heal ourselves. So if you're completely drained, there's paths, there's ways to go about it, and they're simple. And just meditate, take it slow, deep breaths. And it doesn't have to be silent. The lady I was talking about earlier, you don't have to be silent. You can just put in your earbuds and just kind of let your mind do the talking. Thank you. I appreciate that, Tobias. That was an awesome question. Kevin Perry, how do you stay compassionate when life's getting overwhelming? To me, the more you are compassionate, the less that life becomes overwhelming. And these two questions are very much alike, right? Tobias, when you're, what advice would you give when you've completely drained? How do you stay compassionate when life gets overwhelming? Life for me is very difficult right now, very difficult. I'm used to taking care of others as well as myself, very, very much so. And I'm in this transition. It's been a year and a half of almost 2 years of transition, of which time I have gone through all of my savings, and so it's very challenging each month. And I'm working on having you all support and subscribe so that we can continue down this journey without the overwhelming parts. And but my point is, Kevin, is that when you are compassionate, and I believe that my life has shifted in being a much more compassionate person, not self-absorbed, not breaking down every wall so that I could win that next deal and get that next paycheck. You got to be responsible. I'm not saying be a hippie and just kick it all goodbye, unless life choices, right? So when you are compassionate, it's not that necessarily everything goes away, but when you are compassionate, you look at things differently, you react to things differently, and that's how you keep the compassion. For me, it's now the same as my healing. Being compassionate, being on this journey, is something that is healing me and bringing down my stress level. I've been stressed for decades, constant stress, because of my own lifestyle. So Matthew here, do you believe burnout can become a blessing in disguise? Ooh, that's an interesting tact. It depends on how you handle it, of course. But yeah, I mean, great point, man, dude. Matthew, that's a you hit a dinger out on that one. That's a great question or comment. Um, it can be a blessing in disguise, but like I said, it depends on how you handle that burnout. So burnout comes because you're doing things that aren't your passion. Sure, people who are stay at home and take care of the house and all that, and the children and all that, you can get burned out. It's not that you aren't passionate about your children, but it may be a case of what am I not filling my cup with? You love your children, you love your family, but if you're burned out on something, it means you're not doing something that's refilling you. That cup needs to be, maybe you need to laugh more. Maybe you need to have a good steak dinner. Maybe you need to, get a massage. Maybe you need to sit in sauna. Maybe you need to start a really good workout program. Maybe you need to start hiking. Certainly walk 30 minutes a day. Well, at least 15 in the minimum. Get those 6,000 steps in, and that's gonna fill your bloodstream. It's gonna bring out the is it oxytocin? It's gonna bring out those good vibe feelings. It's gonna bring the health of you and of your mind back, whatever that is for you. And I think deep down we all know what that is. I always wanted to do this deep down, but never, I told you I was in theater and business in college. So I'd say, yes, it can be a blessing in disguise, because at some point you might have that moment where you make that conscious decision to sit back, really reflect upon who you are and the life you're living, and then make that change. That's where the blessing comes from. Okay. Thank you for that, Matthew. That was absolutely awesome. Rob Thomas, my man. Wow. What a heartfelt story. Thank you for sharing your truth. From Barbie. I think there's a little typo there, but that's the reason. That's how I stay compassionate. That's how I stay motivated. That's how I do 6 shows. 6 days a week I do shows. There are times that I've done multiple in a day, and I've done as many as 3 in one day. I won't ever do that again. That was just boggling. That was just mind blowing. We're gonna continue down this journey. Let's see, what is our next show? Our next show is on faith after failure. This is one of I've been looking forward to having Wesley on. Wesley Farnsworth, he's got a book out, and from failure through faith, how to rebuild your life. So all of you guys that are on today should be on tomorrow's show as well. I look forward to a great episode, and I look forward to seeing you down the road. Subscribe on our Substack newsletter. Join us each and every day. At some point, I very much want to start getting into some not YouTube, some TED Talk kind of things, and have people come in, and we'll do workshops. And tell me if you'd be interested in that. We're not even in the planning stage. It's just like it's kind of going to be a coming up step for us. I wouldn't say that it's here today, but we are at that hour. By the way, when Barbie, you'll meet Barbie here in a second, like you did in the first part. In the intro video, the outro video is Barbie and I together. Take her advice. Click the links below in the description. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot of joy because of you all. And this is Insights and Straight Talk. Stay on after the outro video. I'll give you guys a little surprise. I learned a little trick that I think you guys will get a kick out of. You've probably seen it in the last couple of shows. If you have seen it, this is Insights and Straight Talk. I'm your host. I'm your founder, Rod Duff, alongside Producer Barbie and loving the Barbie-isms. But I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, Producer Barbie and I are out.